Welcome back, ladies, to High Tea with Lady V. This is our first mini-sode. Actually, let's name it Peri-sode. That's much more fitting. Really, who can hold their attention longer than 10 minutes on one topic if we're currently in our 40s and 50s? You bichons in your 20s and 30s, just you wait. So what's a freaking Peri-sode, you ask? It's a short 10-minute and Lady V rant about a topic, an item, a statement, a piece of information that I feel super passionate about. And ladies, don't we have heaps of those rants nowadays? So what am I here to rant about today? A lot of women have messaged and asked, are you too young for perimenopause? Now, I know that we've mentioned this before, but perimenopause and changes begin around 35 to 40 and can last up to 15 years. I'm now 42, so only 9 years off the average age of menopause. I've always thought I was pretty in tune with my body, but we have to remember the hormonal decline is a slow burn. They don't just disappear overnight. Those little bastards start drying up years before they leave you. Those muffin tops, they don't just grow in a week. That's years of foundational work going on there. So here's my story on how I discovered something wasn't quite right with my hormones. 9 months ago, I had just started Brian Johnson's Blueprint vitamins. You know, the crazy biohacker who spent millions on measuring his biomarkers and health. I was super fit. I was feeling amazing. My mind was sharp and clear. It's as if this fog had just lifted. And I'd been having heel pain, and the heel pain had disappeared. Basically, I was 20 again. I said to my husband, I am feeling amazing. It must be this new protocol. Brian Johnson, you're a freaking god, was what I was thinking in my head. I felt so great. However, I had gone for a cross-country ski, and my cardiovascular fitness had tanked. I even took a photo and posted with the captions, week before period, say goodbye to your cardiovascular endurance. And then I had a really rather strange period. Barely short and light. I dismissed it. I'll get heavier tomorrow. They never did. But I was fit. Maybe that's what it is. I blissfully thought that my monthly friend had come and gone. And I thought to myself, that long enough? That discharge was a little light implant discharge. Shit. I rang my girlfriend. She laughed. She laughed. She laughed. And she laughed. And she said, you idiot. You're pregnant. Remember the implant bleeding you had for your first 2 pregnancies? I even took you to hospital the first time. I did a pregnancy test. And there it was. I was pregnant, ladies. Maybe it is all about not getting pregnant. And darling, I'll never forget that laugh. I rang my husband and I am in tears. We have kids that are 7 and 10. I'm thinking, what the F are we going to do? I had always been on the fence about a cert, but I had put my leg back over the fence, brought an ex-racehorse to train and compete. I was planning life beyond 5-year-olds and toddlers. I was out for a bit more independence. I mean, they can dress themselves now. Hello, freedom-ish. And I was feeling amazing. Freaking Brian Johnson. I did later read that all those vitamins that I was taking can help with your fertility. And so can a freaking enzyme, freaking husbands, and I'll also blame our freaking friends who kindly gifted us a swanky hotel room. You know who you are, you bastards. So here I was celebrating my 42nd birthday in shock, fear, and a little bit of excitement. Maybe I actually hadn't learned how to not get pregnant in PDHPE. But after all the tears and the blaming of others, especially my husband, we were super excited about the impending new addition. Our kids were beside themselves with joy, and I truly felt incredible. These were not like a pregnancy in my 30s, where I was a space cadet, absent-minded, sick, and just felt rotten. This time, my mind was sharper. I felt normal again. Unfortunately for us, we lost our baby at 10 weeks. And that's a whole other podcast because, ladies, for all of you that have loved and lost a pregnancy, fuck, that's a hardship to be on. And one, frankly, I was not prepared to navigate. But as I mentioned, that is a whole other podcast in itself. What the experience did make me realize, though, is that my hormones were not like they used to be. And when we're pregnant, our estrogen surges. Clearly, I have been running on way less estrogen and progesterone than I thought. Those surges had made me feel normal again. My body wasn't aching. I felt clear in the head. I had been feeling phenomenal. And when that hormone ship left me, I was a mess. Granted, I would have been a mess in my 30s too after a miscarriage, but when my hormones rebalanced, those perimenopausal symptoms were exacerbated. Irritability, sleeplessness, postural dizziness. I was always just slightly dizzy standing up. My joints ached, the brain fog. I don't think I knew what day it was for 2 months. I was thinking, oh my God, what the F is wrong with me? I had started to experience some symptoms that were really affecting my everyday life. Electric shock syndrome. I was getting these little electric shocks, tingling in my extremities. I had convinced myself that I was heading into a major neurological decline. Sleeplessness and insomnia, waking up at 2 a.m. and forgetting everything. And then there were the raging feelings. I'm happy. I'm sad. I'm happy again. Wait, hang on. What the F do I actually feel? Then I had the inability to focus. And I was a bit achy all over, not really recovering from exercise like I used to. I felt lonely and a bit isolated. And there were like 100 people at my house on a daily basis, and I felt lonely. It was like being a teenager all over again. My pelvic floor had started to betray me the week before my period, and I got heavy periods. I was walking backwards, leaving meetings because that menstrual cup was overflowing. Yes, ladies, thank you. I actually use one now. I had also had a full health scan 5 months prior, which had involved a DEXA scan, ultrasound of all my organs, blood test. I was hooked up to a machine and told to run to check my cardiovascular fitness and my heart. I had my grip strength and flexibility tested. You name it, it was tested. And I had spoken to the doctor about these weird little incidents where I'd be sitting in bed and I would feel as if air was being pushed out of my lung or my heart would skip a beat. They couldn't find anything. And I had no interest in intimacy. My poor husband was holding out eagerly, hoping for that glisten in my eye and for me to look at him like I did 5 years ago or when I was pregnant. Because he's looking at me the same way he always has. Yeah, I was avoiding his stares. And it made me realize that navigating perimenopause is a joint journey for our partners too. And it's not just when it comes to intimacy. Fuck, everything they do pisses us off. And as estrogen heads south, along goes empathy. And many of us start to get resentful and frustrated. We can't understand how incompetent our partners are. They can't pick up their freaking socks and dirty underwear from the side of the bed or figure out what day the kids wear which clothes to go to school or how to work the vacuum. And for some, they're running businesses. Actually, a majority of men are running the world. And we start to think, how the F did we let this happen? Ladies, estrogen has blindsided us for years, and we start to get angry. We're not as nice or as understanding as we used to be. We don't let things slide like we used to, and we get a little resentful. Not to say that some of this resentment is warranted, but as women, we tend to set the mood of the family, and we don't want our family hating us. Even if we'd feel like running them over with a bus, we actually do kind of love them. We're just pissed off. So I started delving into midlife hormones because I couldn't believe the difference in my cognitive ability and mood when I was pregnant. And 6 months later, this led me to try HRT or MHT, which some people call it. my recent journey with hormone therapy has mostly been pretty positive. Firstly, I had forgotten what it was like to sleep. I can sleep for 4 hours after taking progesterone and still feel better than I did after sleeping 8 hours without it. I feel like me again. And yes, I'm still yelling at the kids, but now I feel like it's warranted yelling, not just psychotic yellings. I'm less bloated, I'm less achy, and those little heart flutters, I haven't had one since starting HRT. And my postural dizziness is no more. I'm also not waking up every 5 seconds to pee, and I feel mentally stable. I'm also mentally strong. So, any of those shit comments from TikTok from men about women's hormones and vaginas when I post something, you can all F off, because you're only viewing my reel because you searched the word vagina, you dirty bastards. But to my point, I actually don't care. Whereas before, I would have been under the doona hiding, thinking my life was over and taking their comments to heart. But now I feel like a stable midlife woman who doesn't give a shit anymore. Basically, as young girls, we are taught to read the room and not offend. But as perimenopausal women and beyond, we've realised that's pretty much bollocks. Offend away, ladies. But it is early days. What I did find, though, is that during the luteal phase, the estrogen made me feel slightly crazy. So I dropped this down a little, and this cycle, I'm trying estrogen only in the first phase and then introducing the progesterone at day 14. Previously, I took the progesterone the whole way through. There are a few different ways you can approach HRT, but obviously you'll be guided by your doctor and your personal experience. For example, if you've had a hysterectomy, you can take estrogen only, but if you still have a uterus, you need to take progesterone to stop the lining of your uterus overgrowing and potentially causing endometrial cancer. This is actually what progesterone naturally does in our bodies. There are also different forms of delivery routes. Patches are a transepidermal uptake of the hormone. It's now proven to be one of the safest routes. However, we've run out of patches in Australia, ladies. Yep, it's 2025 and we don't have enough hormonal patches for perimenopausal and menopausal women in Australia. But rest assured, there is enough Viagra. So don't stress, your partners can still get it up. We just won't want to have sex with them. And then there is estrogen gel, which is applied to the skin, and you take progesterone tablets with this. You can also take estrogen tablets, but there is some research to suggest that this increases blood clots when you do take it via the oral route. And why don't we take the pill? Well, the pill is actually a higher dose of estrogen, and it's via the oral route. Also, the pill uses synthetic estrogen, whereas HRT tends to use bioidentical estrogen. There is one pill that does use bioidentical estrogen, but it uses synthetic progesterone. And there's definitely a trial and error, as we're all different and we're different in how we respond or how much estrogen and progesterone we still have. So working through these issues with a medical professional is obviously paramount. So let's run through a standard menopausal scoring test. Have a think about the symptoms. They creep up on us. Things change and it's all a slow burn. Grab a piece of paper and a pen and score the following symptoms. 1 is mild, 2, moderate, 3, severe, and 0, you guessed it, you're not having any symptoms. I'll say that again. For each of the following symptoms, 1 is mild, 2 for moderate, 3 for severe, and 0 for no symptoms at all. We'll start now. Firstly, hot flushes. Score that between 0 and 3. Lightheadedness, headaches, irritability, depression, unloved feelings, anxiety, mood changes, sleeplessness, tiredness, back pain, joint pain, muscle pain, new hair growth, dry skin, crawling feeling under the skin, less sexual feelings, dry vagina, uncomfortable intercourse, urinary frequency. Now, I want you to add those up. Get a calculator out, And if you're amazing and don't have too much brain fog, add it up in your head, or maybe just tell Suri to add it up. Okay, so scores over 15 indicate that estrogen deficiency is likely contributing to your symptoms, and we will want to discuss treatment options with our doctor. Scores 20 to 50, you will definitely want to discuss this with your doctors. And basically, we're aiming to be under 10. This is where we want to be because we shouldn't have to live with shitty symptoms for 25 years. And if you do choose to visit your doctor and discuss the results from above, you'd want to ask them for a few tests as well. Why? Because you want to make sure that the symptoms are not attributed to something else. What you want to ask for is a complete blood count, a comprehensive metabolic panel, a lipid test, a hemoglobin test, test your vitamin D, your iron, your B12 and your inflammatory markers. Get a mammogram and ultrasound if you need to and a bone density scan because to know where we sit now and having a benchmark can be powerful information for our future, as our normal might not be the same normal as everyone else. And there you have it, ladies. Arm yourself with knowledge, speak with your doctor and explore all the options. I will 100% keep you up to date with my hormonal journey. I am sure there will be some pretty shitty moments, but that's hormones really. And when it comes to supporting your body through the change, I cannot wait to bring you one of my recent interviews. It will blow your mind on nutrition, health, and midlife hormones and what we can do to aid in the change. And don't forget, I know I have promised this a few times, but next week will be the long-awaited podcast. The pussy, the hoo-ha, the fluffy, the vajayjay, the lady garden, the peach, the flower, the honey pot, the cupcake, the kitty, the muff, the pink palace, the taco, the fanny, the coochie, the beaver, the vault, the pussy. I don't think a man's penis has had as many nicknames. No wonder we're so freaking confused. We don't even know what to call it. Yes, that's right, ladies. We are going to be talking about that vortex that is the vagina. Till next time, my beautiful vajayjays, water those lady gardens because they are worth it. And remember, knowledge is power, power is wisdom, and a wise vagina is an informed vagina. Please note that this podcast is for entertainment purposes and informational purposes only. The content shared is not intended as medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider for any medical concerns or before making any health-related decisions. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and guests, and it does not represent those of any medical organization or institution. Thank you for joining us. Filming from Pussy HQ.